I'm Black Flag Civilian, and bouncing around between different ammo loads means that your gun is never properly zeroed. Today, we're talking about choosing the right factory ammunition for your serious rifle, the one you'd pick up should you ever need to defend human beings from a violent threat. And I'm going to scoop myself right up front. The whole point of this video is to convince you to buy one and only one factory ammo for your rifle, and then stick with it. Why? Because every factory load will have a different point of impact. And we're not talking about a 1/4 inch, we're talking about 2 MOA, 3 MOA, or more. Enough to miss, especially if you're jumping between 223 and 556, different companies or different bullet weights. And that's not acceptable. If the proverbial S hits the metaphorical F, say the government starts locking people up for their political speech, tearing families apart, detaining folks indefinitely without due process, or deploying U.S. military service people against civilians in U.S. cities. Well then, there's no guarantee we'll have time to hit the range and re-zero. We need our rifles properly assembled, torqued and accessorized, and yes, zeroed to a particular ammo now, not later, so we're ready in a dire civil defense scenario. So if you got a few hundred rounds of X, a couple boxes of Y, and some mystery Z ammo that your buddy gave you, I'm here to show you a better way. In this video, I'll break down the ammo selection process that I follow for any gun that I would ever trust my life with. Our test rifle today is a 16-inch AR-15 chambered in 5.56, the most common barrel length and the most common rifle in America. Now this particular upper is a CAC upper, the Brownell's exclusive one for only $400. I'm curious to see what it can do. That said, the process is the same for just about any rifle and just about any caliber. If you're starting from scratch, I'd recommend an AR-15 all the livelong day. But if you can't afford new gear, the best rifle for you is the one you already have. Now before we start shooting groups, I want to tell you about my thought process for selecting the right ammo. The why of it all. Join me at the flat range for a chat.
Oh hey there, want to talk ammo? I'd love to. So sure, you can buy a ton of the cheapest ammo you can find and call it a day. But here's a little firearms wisdom I'd like to share with you. Every rifle likes and dislikes different ammunition, and it isn't always correlated with price per round. Sometimes a cheap factory load will shoot just as good as the expensive stuff out of the right gun. So your goal shouldn't be to find cheap ammo or even good ammo. Think of it more about a search for ammo your rifle likes. Now I'm going to walk you through this process in depth later, but the short version is this. First, buy 5 or 6 loads in your chosen caliber. Then you shoot groups, measure the groups, and finally, compare results. You take everything into consideration: cost, accuracy, reliability, malfunctions, the presence of flyers that were not your fault. And finally, using the data that you collected plus your common sense, you select the best ammo for your gun. Now what do I mean by common sense? Here's an example. You have $500 budgeted for ammo. You have load A. It costs 50 cents per round and it's shooting 1 MOA. Then you have load B. It costs $1 per round and shoots 0.9 MOA. What do? Well, the smart thing is to buy 1,000 rounds of load A. If you were signing up for a precision rifle challenge, then maybe you should get load B. But if it's for stockpiling ammo for civil defense purposes, you want accuracy and affordability. And speaking of affordability, let's talk about how much ammo you should keep stockpiled. First things first, you should not spend yourself broke stockpiling ammo. But I do recommend that you decide what you can genuinely afford and aim to maintain this minimum number of rounds at all times. Whether that's 500 rounds or 5,000 rounds, you do what fits in your budget. You don't need to do this for every single gun. In fact, I do not recommend you stockpile 3,000 rounds for your deer hunting gun, or for your .44 Magnum revolver, or whatever range toy you have in your gun safe. So in America, that's probably going to mean 5.56, or its twin 223, or maybe 308. And since this gun is chambered in 5.56, that's what we're testing today. So to that end, let's head inside and start where you should always start when you're looking for the best ammo deals online. The single best place to find ammo deals online is ammoseek.com. And that's because AmmoSeek isn't actually a retailer. This website collects pricing from dozens of different ammo retailers and allows you to filter and sort the listings according to your needs. Here's how I use AmmoSeek to find the right ammo for my guns. First, you're going to open your browser and navigate to ammoseek.com. Next, type the caliber you're looking for into the search box. Today we're looking for 5.56 NATO. Now, we're looking at all the 5.56 ammo scraped from dozens of different online ammo retailers. But we need to do a little work to weed out all the stuff we don't want. So, click Modify Search in the upper left corner. Here's where the magic happens. First, case material. I pick brass case only because I don't want to deal with steel or aluminum case stuff. And just a couple slots down from there, we see condition. Here, we select New. This will remove all the remanufactured ammo from our search. The last thing to consider is shipping rating. The higher the shipping rating, the more affordable the shipping for your ammo order. This actually matters a lot. You have to factor in all the fees related to your ammo order. Shipping, taxes, everything. Then divide by the number of rounds, and this gives you the real cost per round. So now that you have all your filters set, start looking through the results. You're going to select 5 or 6 boxes of affordable factory rounds to compare. Don't necessarily choose the cheapest ammo you find here. Here are a few things to consider. First, ammo is not something you want to buy from boutique, small producers. When it comes to ammo you plan to stockpile, only choose commonly available options from large ammo companies. I'm talking PMC, AAC, Federal, companies you've actually heard of, and SKUs that have been on the shelf for years. And I'll wrap up this section with the pro tip. Suck it up and purchase 1 box of high-quality match-style ammunition. This is not for stockpiling. This is purely to get an idea of the top-end potential of your rifle's accuracy. My recommendation is Federal Gold Medal Match. It's known for extreme accuracy, and it comes in almost every common rifle caliber. Alright, now let's talk about the 10 different factory loads that we're testing today. Here are all the factory ammo loads that we'll be testing in our video. Now this is probably more extensive than you need to go. I'm testing a wide variety for demonstration purposes. I'm hoping we can use all the data we gain here to get an idea of what this CAC upper likes, and maybe even prove or disprove some conventional wisdom along the way. On the left, I have 4 affordable 55 grain loads from different companies. Typically, the most affordable 5.56 rounds you'll find are these 55 grain full metal jackets. And unless your gun hates lightweight ammo, or you're aiming for more of an SPR style build, then this is probably the sort of thing you're looking for. Next, I have 2 62 grain green tip loads. If you didn't already know this, the green tip indicates that this is steel core ammunition. The common wisdom is that this stuff has better penetration compared to the 55 grain lead core stuff. But this comes at the cost of reduced accuracy. If true, I don't like that. But sometimes conventional wisdom ends up being FUD lore, so we'll see whether that holds true for these particular loads in this particular gun. Everything I've talked about so far is similar in price. The cheapest is $450 for 1,000 rounds, shipped to my door, and the most expensive is $500 for 1,000 rounds, shipped to my door. But then we move up to the 68 grain and 75 grain stuff. These are both boat tail hollow point bullets. A benefit to these heavier bullets is they perform better in high winds, and they tend to maintain more energy at longer distances. So if you are looking for a round for your SBR style build, it makes sense to look for something this weight or heavier. Now the trade-off here is you're going to spend a little more money. These cost roughly $630 for 1,000 rounds and $680 for 1,000 rounds, again shipped to where I live. And finally, we have our heaviest bullets, 77 grain. Here I have an option from AAC and then another one from Federal. The AAC is something of an outlier. It's become quite popular due to being the cheapest in its class, only a few cents more per round than the 55 grain stuff, but it's essentially a clone of the popular IMI 77 grain Razor Core ammo. And then I have a box of Gold Medal Match, and this stuff is priced twice as much as any other box on the table. As I mentioned before, this is purely for testing the upper limits of this rifle's accuracy. And now that we have all the ammo that we're testing, let's talk about how to collect real data from your rifle, so you can make an informed decision on which ammo to stockpile. If we want to choose the right ammo, we're going to need to collect some data. And the way I like to do that is by creating an ammo comparison target. Now usually I'll just use cardboard from the recycling, but we have a lot of groups to test, so we're going with this fancy tri-fold cardboard display, the kind you use in the middle school science fair. I start by writing each ammo we're testing across the top, sorted first according to weight, and then from there sorted by price per round. cheapest on the left, sorted through most expensive on the right. This way, we can see how each ammo performs relative to its cost. Next, I add two 2-inch sticker targets in each column. This is where we're going to aim for each of our groups. We need to leave space above and below because you'll see for yourselves later, each ammo is going to land in a different spot. Also, make sure to leave space at the bottom. Down here, I wrote Group 1, Group 2, and Average. After we shoot our groups and measure everything with the calipers, these rows are where we'll collect our data. And then finally, the result row. And remember, we have the cheapest rounds on the left working up to the more expensive rounds on the right. So theoretically, we should see increasing accuracy as we move from the left to the right. But it doesn't always work that way. Really, what we want to see, our best case scenario, is that one of these loads on the left shoots as well or better as the ones on the right. That way, we get a very high accuracy to cost ratio. And one final word before we hit the range. Now, I'm sure many of you are asking yourselves, why 10-shot groups? I'm sure you've seen a lot of videos where folks shoot 5 or even 3-shot groups and then claim MOA all day. These groups are misleading. 10-shot groups give a much clearer picture about the potential accuracy of a rifle. And why do we shoot 2 groups? Well, the second group is to confirm our data. If we have 2 10-shot groups of a similar size, we can rest assured that our data is good. If our 2 groups are wildly different in size, then something fucky is going on, and we might need to collect a little more data before we come to any conclusions. And with that, I think we're finally ready to hit the range. Okay, first up, the 55 grain PMC. Now this was the cheapest ammo, so I wasn't expecting too much, but I was a little disappointed in these groups. Just so you know, to prevent confusion, I digitally covered up bullet holes from any previous ammo loads. That way you only see shots from the current ammo that I'm shooting on screen. Anyway, here is the 55 grain Winchester. I didn't like how it was shooting. At this point, I started to get worried that something was wrong with the gun, or maybe the barrel was trash. But then we got to the AAC, and I realized, no, this gun can shoot with the right ammo. I borrowed this 3-15 Vortex scope from a friend because it has a nice, fine center dot. Perfect for shooting 100-yard groups. And more positive results from the 55 grain Frontier. I don't think I mentioned this yet, but this particular ammo is a little unique. The bullet is not an FMJ. It's actually a 55 grain HPM, or hollow point match. I don't know how well it will work in your AR, but this CAC upper seems to like it. And now the Winchester green tip. Oof. The fact that I had to point out where my point of aim was tells you everything you need to know. This certainly adds some weight to the conventional wisdom that steel core ammo is less accurate. As you can see here, the steel core PMC did a little better than the Winchester, but it's still lacking accuracy. Here is the first of the heavier bullets, the 68 grain Frontier boat tail hollow points. I'm going to let the impacts speak for themselves. The 75 grain Frontier was significantly better, but just like the green tip loads, just not at the accuracy level that we need. I'm of the opinion that if your life is on the line and you have no choice but to fire a rifle toward an enemy, you should know exactly where that bullet is going to land. This does not hit the mark, in my opinion. So here's the 77 grain AAC. This does a lot better than the last few groups, but not quite as good as the 55 grain AAC. And finally, that good federal gold medal match. After shooting a lot of less than stellar groups, we finally got some real nice looking ones here. This tells us one thing.
Those big ugly groups earlier were not the result of my mediocre shooting, a loose scope, or anything else. Our results appear to be genuine.
Now, finally, we have the data we need to come to some conclusions. Now, the most accurate groups that we shot today were with the federal gold medal match at only 2.13 inches. Now again, we're not going to stockpile this, it's too expensive, but this gives us an idea of what this rifle is capable of. Remember earlier when I said we wanted to find a load that was both affordable and accurate? Well, luckily, our second and third most accurate groups came from our 55 grain AAC and Frontier 55 grain HPMs. Both of these options are quite affordable, so for them to shoot nearly as good as the federal gold medal match, that's exactly what we wanted. I would be happy stockpiling either of these loads. Now for the least accurate loads. We're looking at the Winchester 62 grain green tips and the Frontier 68 grain boat tail hollow points. Now as for the green tips, we were looking at 9.5 inch groups. Now that's just terrible. Take a look at these dinner plate sized groups in green. We need much better for our serious rifle. And even worse than that, the 68 grain Frontier bullets were shooting all over this area, far away from the point of aim right here. I couldn't even measure the group. I think 3 shots went off the cardboard. Now everything else performed somewhere in the middle. Other things we can learn about our rifle from this test? Well, it doesn't like Winchester ammunition. I'm not sure what Winchester is doing over there in their ammo factories, but this CAC upper does not like it. And a general takeaway about this CAC rifle? I think we can determine that it's pretty ammo selective. It shoots quite well with the AAC, the Frontier, the Federal Gold Medal Match, but not so great with the other loads. But that's why we test. If we get the AAC or the Frontier, we can rest assured that we have a 3 MOA gun. And for civil defense purposes, that's the upper limit of what I consider acceptable. And can we draw any other conclusions based on these groups? If you have any thoughts, leave them down in the comments. All right, now it's time to wrap up.
So that's the process. If the day ever comes when you don't get a warm-up shot, this is how you guarantee that your gun hits exactly where you aim it. 1 rifle, 1 ammo, 1 0. Get squared away now, not later. That way you're ready. Not scared, not confused, not reactive, just ready. Now one final note before I sign off. I'm doing a 10,000 subscriber Q&A video very soon. Drop your question in the comments below so I can answer it in this upcoming video. And another small preview. My intention is to turn this YouTube channel into something bigger. An actual community for all of us where we can support one another, teach each other skills, and seed community organizing projects in the real world. I'll talk all the details in that Q&A video, so keep your eyes open for that very soon. But for today, if you made it this far, thanks for sticking around. If you found value in this video, please click like and subscribe to the channel. Share it with anyone who you think might benefit from learning about this topic. Until next time, take care of each other.